Good afternoon and welcome to our executive education discussion on our CSuite certificate programs. My name is Angela Bostic. I'm the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at CSuite Business School here at Emory University. I am joined by Suzanne McKenna, and we're going to talk to you today a little bit about our CSuite certificate programs, the offerings within our non-degree executive education programs, and how you can get involved. So just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you've never done a webinar chat with us, you can submit questions at any point in time during the discussion. Go ahead and just put those in the window. I'll be feeding those questions to Suzanne along the way, so we'll answer those on air. And if we can't get your question on air, we've got folks off camera that are tackling some of those questions as well. So ask them as they come to you. We'll hold them and get back to you. And then a copy of this chat will be available about 5 to 7 days after the actual chat itself. So we'll make sure we send that out so you don't have to feverishly take down notes. But definitely stay attentive and involved, and we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to kick this off by letting Suzanne introduce herself and talk a little bit about the program here at CSuite, and then we'll get into talking about the CSuite certificates.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. So again, I'm Suzanne McKenna, and I'm the director for our open enrollment programs here at Emory Executive Education. So within that responsibility, I basically work with our wonderful faculty to build a series of short courses that are non-degree in nature, but still quite academically rigorous, focused on key business topics and challenges of today. We have courses that range in topics from leadership to business analytics to the industry of healthcare, just a broad range of them. And these are shorter in length and duration than you would typically see in a degree program, but still focused on that particular narrow subject area pretty heavily.
Awesome. So today we're talking about CSuite certificates and specifically figuring out what those are and who they're for and how they were built and created. So Suzanne, talk a little bit about the CSuite certificate program. What is it? How does it differ from a traditional certificate? And what can participants expect to learn?
Yeah. So our CSuite certificate program is a way that you can bundle together a group of courses in a concentrated area, and then the certificate's awarded to attest to your new found or newly enhanced expertise in a specific subject matter. So these courses that we're talking about, they're either 2 or 4 days in length, as I've already mentioned. They teach they leverage the faculty here at CSuite as well as Emory's broad alumni network and also other practitioners that we happen to know in the business community to come in and give you not just that academic thought leadership and where business is heading and what's going on in the new research areas, but also what it means and how it applies. It's about taking the knowledge that we have here at CSuite and applying it to your business. And these happen in short, concentrated bursts, as I said, 2 or 4 days in length. So that's kind of the courses that we're talking about. The certificates themselves allow you to concentrate in specific subject areas of interest. And you have time, 2 years or so, to complete your certificate. I say or so because we're never going to be, your 2 years are automatically up and you must start over. No, but we're going to work with you. But you'll take 4 courses over the course of those 2 years and earn your certificate in a concentrated area.
Awesome. And I think that's important for people to understand. The CSuite certificates are able to give you a sort of a depth of understanding, but still in a much shorter kind of format time frame.
Yeah.
So a way to test out kind of whether you're really wanting more depth and understanding.
It's very common to see folks coming in who might be considering an MBA,
right?
To see if it's really what they need. Some folks continue forward with that. Some folks decide that these few courses help them.
Yeah, awesome. And so talk a little bit more about the benefits of the CSuite certificate. Yeah. So knowing what you can study and the breadth of areas that are there, what are some of the big 2 or 3 things you feel folks will really take away from a CSuite experience?
So one of the great things, and I tell people this all the time, is you have the opportunity to come study at a top 20 business school. And that's a unique opportunity in and of itself. And it's then further targeting that time of study on a topic that you specifically have chosen to master. Our courses cover a wide range of business topics. And so we leave it to you to help kind of drive your curriculum and drive the things you want to focus on. As I mentioned earlier, it's CSuite's faculty, it's our alumni, it's practitioners that we know in the marketplace who are all coming in to bring you thought leadership and also why it's relevant and how to use it and how it's applied. So it's very rich in that way. The other benefit is that you do have, when you're going to earn a certificate, it's only 8 days of your time. So you're only taking 8 days away from work to do this, and that can be spread out, in 2-day increments over 2 years. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit lower threshold, a little bit less of a commitment financially and from time, and that but you still get a good breadth of knowledge. The last thing I think you really take away from is when you come in our open enrollment classroom, you're surrounded by folks who are from a range of different industries, companies, functional areas, focuses. So you are approaching the same problem and the same subject matter, but hearing about it through so many different lenses and so many different perspectives, you're learning from one another in the classroom as much as you're learning from the faculty member in front. So this gives you a really broad perspective on possible solutions to the challenges you happen to be facing.
Yeah, I think that's important to note, that the learning is really enhanced by the individuals you're in the classroom with.
Yeah.
That's why it's better than sort of a pure online format where you might take a course or a particular topic by yourself. Before we move on to talk a little bit about the structure of the C-Suite program, we have a question in it asking about how you put together the classes. So in particular, do you have to identify up front all of the classes you want to take for your certificate in advance, or do you add them on along the way?
No, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So if you're, say, and I'm just going to use strategy as an example. Right now, if you look at our calendar, you'll see that we have a few strategy classes scheduled. There'll be more scheduled next spring, but we wouldn't ask you to commit to that up front because we're constantly adding new courses. And part of that is giving you the opportunity to wait and see what happens to pique your interest. In fact, I think when you start down the path, you could say, yes, I'm pursuing finance. And you really get into it and recognize, no, I need to pursue strategy. We're not going to hold you. Again, this is a super flexible format. It's designed intentionally to be that way. And so by giving you the opportunity to sort of change your focus midstream, it allows you to drive the direction of your learning.
That's awesome. And I think the flexibility lets you take advantage of things as they come up, but also in your work, if you find, wow, I really need a bit more finance acumen right now, or I'm being asked to work on this project and I need a bit more marketing savvy, not necessarily enough to take over a whole project, but just a bit here specifically, it kind of can add, almost be an additive process for it. So that's great. So you have on the screen there sort of how you add the C-Suite to your resume, and I think this is very helpful. Visually, it sort of walks people through it. So, Suzanne, explain sort of at a very basic level how I earn the C-Suite certificate.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not hard. It requires that you invest the time in 4 2-day classes, so essentially 8 days. 3 of those courses do need to be concentrated in the area that you're pursuing. So say, again, you're pursuing the strategy, C-Suite and strategy. You will take 3 courses that are focused in the broader areas of strategy. It might be setting the stage for strategic growth, strategy and execution, and design thinking. Those are 3 of the strategy classes. Then you add an elective, so we give you some flexibility. So say, as Angela mentioned, you're really not comfortable in the realm of marketing and you want to understand marketing better. We have a strategic marketing management class that goes over the basic strategic marketing considerations and will help you learn more about what marketing does, why it matters, to layer on top of your strategy education.
Awesome. And so as you'll see here on the screen, you take those 3, you add on there that elective, and then you sort of earn the certificate. We're going to move on and talk about the advanced certificate. Yeah. So a little bit different than the C-Suite, but how do they work together?
Yeah, so the C-Suite is your base, sort of the baseline. But we found, and one of the things we found quickly is that people wanted to do more, and they wanted to really continue deepening their knowledge. So we felt that, given what we heard from the market, we needed to add an additional layer for people and give them that opportunity to really, really, really take a deep dive. So the advanced certificate is for that purpose, and it's where you come in for an additional 2 courses. So you've already come in, you've done the 4, you've gotten your C-Suite, and you're like, but I really still need to know more about these subjects. So you come in and take 2 more 2-day courses. We'll give you another year to get that done, and so that you've got plenty of time to come in and get it worked out.
That's awesome. And I think that the 2 things complementary. You might find yourself really interested in something, at class 3 of the 4 in there, and sort of want to add on and layer to it. So that's great. A question specifically about how you pursue that. So knowing I don't have to set my classes up in advance, is there an application fee or a process that I have to do to tell you I'm I'm starting the certificate or down that path?
Absolutely not. This is one of those things where, and this actually happened in a class a few weeks ago. Folks came in to take this course and they enjoyed it and they felt that it was very valuable. And then they started asking questions about the certificates as we got into the second day of the course. We're going to, again, work with you and help you meet those goals that you've set for yourself. This isn't something you have to apply for as non-degree executive education. It's something that we do sort of vet the folks as they come in when they do register themselves and make sure that everybody in the room is going to be appropriate to the level of folks in the room. But again, most people in the room are folks that are aspiring to executive careers or in their executive careers. And, they have certain management and leadership responsibilities already, but they want to get more. But there's no hard and fast application. Likewise, there's no application fee. There's no requirement of a GMAT or undergraduate GPA of a certain amount or anything like that. Folks bring their experience into the classroom and they get out of it what they put in. And we found that when they get there and they've been able to invest in this way, they're typically going to bring a lot.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about just that. So the idea of who should pursue a C-suite certificate. Who is this program good for? And I heard you say before, people aspiring to be in the executive suite. I heard you say people wanting to round out skills. I heard you say people who want to get a taste of acumen in a particular area.
Yes.
Tell me, what boxes do I need to make sure I check that I'm in the right class and I'm looking the right way?
Yeah. Well, I think that the key one is to make sure that you're interested in expanding your skill set in the area for the class. So whether it is a need that you have from your employer who says, we really need you to build up your strategy. We're going to be going into some strategic planning, and we want to make sure that, we've got some folks here, some key leaders who have a really good toolkit in the strategy area. Or, it's something you are personally interested in or you wish to advance into. So you're somebody who's actually at a point where you're not necessarily looking at a total and complete career change, but you do want to move into an area that's more, say, I'm really interested in learning a lot more about marketing and moving more into a role that interfaces with marketing or perhaps even into a marketing role. But to start that process, you need to bone up your knowledge of marketing. So this is a good way to come in and do that. The other group that we see are managers who are coming in and they've been responsible for a team and they're looking to do a project, but they want to move above and beyond that. They want to elevate and expand their influence throughout their organization. These folks come in, often we'll see them in our leadership programs. We'll also see them in the C-suite courses, really looking to build their strategic areas in finance, knowledge in marketing, knowledge in how all the different functional areas play together. At times, we have folks who come in with a specific charge. And that is, they've been asked to lead a specific endeavor within the organization. And they recognize that it's more than just, so it's a marketing leader who comes in, it's more than just a marketing project. They need to understand the financials. They need to understand how to use the analytics to make decisions. So when they've got this sort of marching orders to come in with a very specific thing they need to really get smart in really quickly, this is a really beneficial way for them to do that.
Awesome. We're going to move in to talk about the concentrations and the different types of C-suites. So before we get there, let's talk about cost. Right?
Yeah.
Before we get to the one thing, let's get to the second thing.
Yeah.
How much are we talking by class, by certificate, and then what is inherent in my cost? What am I getting for that expense?
Yeah. So our 2-day courses are $2,000 per person per course. That includes instructional time, materials, breakfast and lunch, snacks, pretty much everything that you would need while you're here on campus to support the learning and take care, all of that. If you were to do a full C-suite of 4 courses, that's $8,000. The advanced certificate is $12,000 because you add another 2 classes on. We do have 4-day intensive leadership programs that are part of the leadership certificate series. Those are $6,000. They include some assessments and executive coaching and things like that. Right now, that's where we sit at cost. We do have discounts available for Emory alumni, government employees, clients, folks who have a large institutional relationship with Coswetta also do have some preferred pricing.
So I think important for that is to think about if you have those relationships or knowing those pieces, just reach out to figure out what the exact costing would be for you. But the sticker price, as you look at it, is sort of what's there. And it seems like it's pretty comprehensive in terms of not just what you pay, but I'd love, as we talk through this, the benefits that sort of pay over time.
Yeah.
So we'll start off on the concentrations. It looks like we have business analytics, change management, finance, marketing, strategy, and the healthcare industry. So talk before we move on to it. How did we land on these? Are these expertises at Emory? Are these needs in the market? What are they?
Yes, as a matter of fact. When we went about building the curriculum and thinking about what could we do and how could we build a robust set of offerings, we looked first to the faculty here at Goizueta and to the areas where we have really, really strong expertise. And that's how we initially sort of chose the beginnings of where we thought we would land. And then we turned around and looked the other way. We looked to the market and what's going on, and honestly, we concentrated on what's going on in Atlanta. Atlanta is a city that's very heavily data-driven, so business analytics made a lot of sense. It's a city that's growing rapidly. The companies who are here are often moving here. If they were founded here, they're growing very rapidly. There's a lot of change. We have a lot of change in industry, period, but specifically in Atlanta, change is a hard one, and it's something that has to be managed. With finance, again, you look at what's going on in the city, look at what's going on nationally and globally, understanding everything from the basics of reading financial statements and analyzing them to putting together complex mergers and acquisitions are areas that people really feel that they need to be confident and have good knowledge in. With marketing, you got to understand your customer. You've got to understand the relationships that you have in order to generate additional value. So, and you can keep going through these. Healthcare specifically, we sit at Emory University with Emory Healthcare, the CDC up the road, the Rollins School of Public Health. Atlanta is a booming healthcare market as well. It's a market that is a challenge in the United States in particular, and it's one that we want to help folks understand in such a way that they can efficiently and effectively navigate the ever-changing environment. You can't open the newspaper, so to speak, to any day without something about healthcare being in there. And it's not just the political realm and what's going on in Washington. It's what's going on in the new technologies, what's going on in management of care, what's going on in shift to a more population health-oriented approach to health. So it's just an industry that in and of itself is quite unique, and then we here at Emory have many different resources to bring and share expertise in.
Awesome. That's great. So we're going to talk a little bit about business analytics. So if I'm kind of looking through this, what does the CSuite in business analytics offer me as a participant, and what am I going to be able to go do tomorrow at work?
Yeah. Well, I think the key thing, and I just want to distinguish it from some other courses that are out there, this course is not a class in how to do analytics. You will be exposed to certain techniques. You will definitely discuss it. But it's really about how to use the data in a strategic manner to lead your organization forward. You got to understand where it comes from. You've got to understand what to do with it or what to have done with it. But most importantly, you've got to understand how to use it as a leadership tool. And that's what this certificate really focuses on. And it looks at different kinds of data. It can be everything from digital and social media analytics to HR analytics, or even looking at the data as a strategic tool to drive decision making.
I think that's helpful. And then I'm walking away from this being able to address complex challenges. I'm going to be able to leverage this analytics. And then I like the last point of some best practices.
Yeah.
So what does that mean in particular? Am I walking away with like tools and a toolkit or frameworks, or am I walking away with some more experiential and tangible ways that I've worked through some problems?
Again, I hate to keep saying this, but it's both. It really is. You go away. The faculty are very good at helping you make this super applied. They do it in a couple of different ways, but what they do a lot is really ask you to come prepared with a challenge. What is it that you're facing that you need to get a handle on? What is your analytics challenge that you want to work on? In one class, you might be actually running an analysis using some of our software we have access to at school, running an analysis on actual live data, just so that you can see what happens when you put it through these different algorithms and all of that. The computer does all that work, but it gives you something that's relevant to what you're doing. The other thing that you see often is folks will, our faculty will bring in some of their former students who have done quite well in a specific field, and they'll come in and talk to you about what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they're trying to, how they're finding that this field of analytics, which is really a broad field, is useful in different areas. Somebody talking about the marketing side of it, somebody talking about the HR side of it, somebody talking about the managerial accounting side of it, but all of them playing together in the broader space of analytics.
Awesome. That's really helpful. So I know the next one is in change management.
Yeah.
So specifically, is this for the person who is leading change, the person who is experiencing change, the person who's trying to enact change?
It's mostly for that person who is in change somehow.
Okay.
So, I think there's two sides of it. You're either going to be the change agent who's sort of initiating the change, and that's something that you really have to plan for, and you have to figure out ahead of time to do it effectively. You have to take a step back. I was talking with a participant yesterday about some of the things she wanted to see changed in her organization, and she said, the way we approach these problems, it's not working. We never pilot, we never roll them out, and the conversation ended up shifting to how she could be a change agent to change how her company looked at new product development, new product launches in particular. And she started thinking about the change management frameworks and things like that, and suddenly recognized that understanding those ahead of time will help her be more effective as a change agent. But you also have to look at the folks that are in the midst of change or even brought in to lead a change. There are certain frameworks, there are certain applications that are important in change management that you need. You also have to focus on the communication end of it, and that's what all of our change management courses really do well, is they talk about the things you have to do, but they also they help you understand how to communicate it and why that's so important.
Yeah. And when I walk away from this, what do you think the single most valuable takeaway in the change management C-suite certificate is for somebody?
I think it's understanding that role of communication. I cannot underscore how important that is in change. People fear it, and if they feel like they're not getting the right, complete information, they will become very resistant to it.
Yeah.
And so that communication piece is just critical.
That's awesome. So your next one we have here is a C-suite certificate in finance, and I know this is a big area. Atlanta's big for fintech. Atlanta's big for corporate finance. A lot of big headquarters. What kind of person am I looking at? Am I looking at someone with a deep understanding of financials already, or a cursory understanding who needs to get a deep understanding?
Yeah, I would say, and this would actually hold true for several of our certificates. In finance, in particular, marketing is the same way. These are people who don't have the solid grounding in the field that they feel they need to. Now, that's not saying you don't understand finance. I had finance when I was in business school, and I actually concentrated in it, but there's things that we're teaching here that I've learned through this that have helped broaden my knowledge and broaden my ability to talk about it. It helps with everything from learning the vocabulary. Our Finance for Non-Financial Managers class is exactly what it sounds like, Finance and Accounting for Non-Financial Managers. It's helping you understand the language of finance, helping you understand what the financial statements are and how to read them. It's really about learning that baseline of information so that you can then move forward into different classes, or not. But you have that knowledge. Our corporate finance class really helps you see the linkages between finance and strategy. It helps you do a lot more complex analysis to understand the health of your business and the health of what you're doing. Everything from net present value calculations and returns and things like that to, like I said, tying it all back into how you're driving strategic growth. We have a 4-day course. It's focused on mergers and acquisitions, and it starts with why on earth you would consider these sorts of things. It walks you through the process. We have a lawyer who's coming in to talk about what you need to expect out of your legal team and what your legal team is going to expect out of you. And then it gets into the simulation. How do you actually do the thing? How do you start? It starts with valuation, starts with identifying targets, and moving all the way through the process so that you can see what a successful merger or acquisition would look like. There's also going to be probably some stories about what a not successful one looks like.
Right.
Again, covering broad financial topics there.
Right. And I think that's also helpful to understand. We have a question that came in, and I feel like this is a good kind of way to think about it. Some classes likely have overlap. They may be things that are finance classes, but also strategy classes.
Absolutely.
Or they might be healthcare classes and also finance classes.
Absolutely.
How do they relate by topic, and how do people know which ones are appropriate for which certificate?
Yeah, so we actually have a grid that we publish. So and most of our classes count for more than one certificate.
Okay.
There's a grid, and it's actually, I think it's at the end of this deck as well, but it's also on our. When we publish our calendar gives you the dates and a little description of the class. It also shows you which courses count toward which certificates.
Right.
And I'd say the other thing is, if you're sitting there and you're really struggling and you feel that this class in marketing is a strategy class, and I really feel like it should count toward the strategy certificate, that's one of those where you talk to us and we work it out, because we're not going to sit there and be hard and fast and rigid. Again, we're non-degree, so we have a lot more flexibility in helping you build the curriculum you need to meet your goals.
Awesome. I'm going to move us along. I know we have about 20 more minutes, and I want to make sure I'm giving you all ample time to ask questions, so continue to keep asking them. Thank you. I'll get them answered here or off camera, as we've been doing. CSuite in healthcare. So now this is a big one. Like you mentioned, healthcare is the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah.
That we're all trying to figure out how to answer. Is this for the healthcare executive to understand? Is this for somebody wanting to get into healthcare? Who is this CSuite best for?
So it's targeted to the person who needs to understand what's going on in healthcare and how to be effective as a leader within healthcare. Obviously it all ties to the healthcare provider and providing care, but this touches so many different ancillary areas. Everything from medical device manufacturing to health insurance companies to pharmacy, pharma, to, like I said, actual hospital systems and doctors' offices and folks like that. And the other thing, and again, this is the beauty of this type of class, is typically in the classroom you will have doctors who are in now leadership roles. We always seem to have at least one pharmaceutical sales rep in there. We always seem to have someone from a health IT organization, and then we have someone else from, a clinic administrator. So there's folks that are in different functional areas, different roles within different types of organizations, but they're all talking about the same challenges and the same problems that are facing the industry.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of again, it's broadly targeted, but that's in part designed to give you a very broad set of perspectives.
Great. So talking a little bit about the CSuite in marketing, and I know this is similar to finance, so we don't have to necessarily belabor, but there's a lot happening in marketing now. There's a lot of things in the digital space, a lot of places that talk about how to make sure you've got KPIs and the right ROI. What are some of the concepts I'm going to get, and is this focused more on marketing activities or on consumer behavior?
Yes, again. So we have a strategic marketing management class coming up in a couple of weeks, and it is actually focused on B2B marketing. We've found that that's a subject area that is kind of the Wild West, and there's just so many different approaches, so many different ways to understand it. So you spend one day talking about those key strategic marketing areas of targeting, positioning, segmenting, and understanding how to kind of figure out where you need to be and what you need to be doing. The next day really focuses on your relationships and how to harness the power of channels that you have to manage, and really, really, really honing in some on brand and how that can be used to manage relationships in the B2B space. We also have courses that focus on consumer behavior. Rosetta has some wonderful faculty members focusing in that specific study. Some of our behavioral folks are actually not necessarily in the marketing space. They're in organization and management.
Right.
They're in accounting. And so, also bringing a multidisciplinary approach to consumer behavior is one of the things that we like to do. And then the last area where we're starting to really work on building some offerings now is in the digital space. Everything from understanding social media to understanding the broader digital market to mobile and what you do with mobile. So,
and I think those are, like you mentioned, they're changing all the time.
Yeah.
So the beauty of this is you might find yourself on a project that has an element of it and you've never quite seen it before, right? How many of us have had someone walk in the office and say, so about social, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do I do about this? Or, do we need to be on this platform or this place?
Yeah.
I think that definitely helps individuals think through it. So the last big category is a big category. It's strategy.
Yeah.
So strategy means like a million things and nothing all at once.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm an executive or if I'm an aspiring executive, what do I do with the C-Suite certificate in strategy?
Yeah. Well, when I was in business school, and this was a long time ago, we didn't have strategy classes. We had management classes.
Right.
And I kind of liked that
Right.
because it was really focused on how you're running your business, how you're planning things, how you're making sure your organization is ready to deliver on your plans, how you're managing new innovation and new ideas. And that's what our strategy C-Suite is really all about. It's about building your organization in some ways through organic growth, and that is through understanding new products, new innovations, things like that. Obviously, there can be inorganic growth topics that are covered here as well. In September, we have a course on setting the stage for strategic growth, and it's about understanding those basic strategy frameworks that are out there, Porter's 5 forces, the different models that you have, just so that you can have that lens that you need and those tools that you need to plan how you're going to go forward. Understanding the process of industry analysis is critical. Defining your industry becomes really important. We have another course focused on strategy and execution. And it starts out with understanding what value means to your organization. And value can mean something very different to different companies. And you got to understand what the value proposition is and what value is before you can figure out how to deliver it.
Right. Right. And I think that's an important thing is strategy is different in every organization. So
yes.
it's helpful to think about it. So we're going to move on to talk about the upcoming class schedule. But I got a couple of questions, and then I'm going to merge into one because I think this might work best. I take the classes. I identify what I'm interested in. I put together my certificate. I've completed it. How do I leverage that in the marketplace? Do I put that on my resume? Can I tell people I have a certificate? Do I physically get a certificate?
Yeah.
And then how should I think about talking about that to my boss, to future employers, so I can sort of communicate the value that I now have?
Well, it's something that absolutely we commonly see people adding these to. I mean, I see them on their LinkedIn profiles. I presume they end up on resumes as well. But it is a valuable certificate. It attests to the fact that you spent time at an elite business school learning from top faculty there. And we do. That's the one thing I will say is we use the best faculty from one of the greatest faculties in teaching in our classrooms. So, you want to brag on that. When you earn a certificate, we actually have this really cool diploma-sized 10 by 14 sheet that's been in a plaque that you have. So the plaque itself is fairly substantial. You can hang on your wall, and it's a testament to what you've done. You were asking about how you talk about it from the beginning. One of the things that we've put together is, and you can request this, is essentially a one-page document that says this is the value that comes from executive education. But the way you talk about it is, again, you're at First About a Business School at Emory University. You're learning from folks who are featured regularly, both in the popular press as well as the academic presses, as leaders in their field. You're learning from folks who are brought in, who are leaders in the business world in the specific area you're talking about. So, and then you're learning from folks in the classroom. Again, everything that we do is very relevant, very applied, has a highly experiential component to it. You're not sitting and listening to some guy drone on at you. You're there, you're working through challenges, you're talking to one another, you're talking to the instructor in front of the classroom. It's a really hands-on applied way of learning, which is what works best for them.
Absolutely. So I've got up on the screen upcoming short courses. So these are the courses that make the certificate, right? These are the courses I can put together and make the certificate from now through October. And you've got quite a lot. So I see these here. You can also find these on our website, and you can also request information afterwards. I think everybody, from a follow-up standpoint, will get a copy of our calendar following this webinar. But talk to me about 2 or 3 classes that you're really excited about.
Yeah. Well, I think probably coming up, and it's coming up quick. But this class in mergers and acquisitions, like I said, it's a neat class, and it's constructed. It's really two-day classes that are back to back, but the experience is about the 4-day class. Mm-hmm. But we've brought in a guy who was on Wall Street, who's done deals, who really, really, from a practical perspective, is very knowledgeable about things to consider, things that have worked. He's been very successful. He's also had some spectacular failures. That's part of it. But he's able to bring that perspective as the lead faculty member of the course. Then we're bringing in a strategy professor to talk about that screening process and understanding, strategically where this type of activity should fit in your organization and in your growth as you consider how you will grow. But also what you'll look for when you're considering other targets out there. We have a lawyer who's coming in who is at a large law firm doing deals on a day in and day out basis. She and one of her senior associates are coming in and talking about the lawyer's role in all of this and what to expect from your legal team, what not to expect from your legal team, what your legal team expects from you. But really giving you an understanding of practically, these are the things you have to think about before you do it. And then we're going to put you into a simulation. And you're going to go through a simulated case study type process and really breaking it down, applying some of the analysis techniques you've learned, applying some of the other skills that you've learned, so that really by the end of it, you have a hands-on, no, it's not a live deal, but it's definitely a hands-on thing. That one is exciting to me.
And that's on, make sure I get this, that's on July 30th, next Monday through,
it's July 31st
so 2 weeks
through August. It's in 2 weeks, or 2.5 weeks. But yeah. But July 31st through August 3rd are the 2 dates put together. The other one that I think is going to be a really cool class, it's such a hot topic in the market right now, is our design thinking class. It is really about understanding that innovation process. And it goes beyond just talking about innovation and using a design thinking framework. It talks about how you use it to build team engagement. It talks about how you use it to shift your culture, to bring about change, to manage change. But it uses that framework of design thinking more as a leadership tool and a leadership competency than just something you need to know how to do. And that's in October. And then, of course, my favorite is our managerial leadership program. And that's where our senior associate dean for exec ed, J.B. Kurish, along with our associate dean for leadership development here, Ken Keene, have worked together to build a 4-day course on really how you lead your team to success. They approach leadership from a lot of different areas, but it's very practical, applied, hands-on, focusing on the team. You have executive coaching, you have assessments. There's an experiential activity where we take you outside and put you through our leadership response course, which is just, it's a series of activities that are a little bit physical but not challenging, but it's really about how you think through them. It's cool.
I think that's a great one. Yeah. And on top of it, all of these have different ways that they can be integrated into your kind of work and what you're trying to accomplish. You'll see on the next screen that I just put up for you how these classes map to the different certificates, but I believe, as Susan had mentioned before, there's a little bit of flexibility to figure out, is mergers and acquisitions a strategy, or if you're doing it in the healthcare field, is that something that is in the healthcare area for you, and how that might come together. There's a question that came in specifically I'm excited, I see something on here I like, and I want myself and my team to take it. Are there discounts for teams anyway? And if so, what size and how do we do that and make sure we integrate it in a way that works for everybody?
Well, and so it's about critical mass. So if there's 3 folks from the same company or team who wish to take a course, and they all come to the same course, there's a discount for that. When your organization moves into sending 6 or more folks through, there's 2 different discount levels. So, some folks, 6 or more, and then you get a little bit deeper discount at 10 or more. Once you reach a certain number for a specific class, we may want to talk to you about a private offering of that class specifically for your organization. Once you hit 10 or 11 folks, it might be more effective to do that. It might be most effective to then take it a step further and talk about something custom built for your organization. We have just a range of ways you can engage with us, whether it's one individual coming to a single course, to a group who's going to be completing a certificate, to a full-scale comprehensive custom program.
Awesome. That's great. I'm going to leave this on the screen, and as we get to sort of the closing, if people have seen things on here they're excited about and they want to figure out how to get started and how to move forward, I know that we're following up this chat with a copy of our open enrollment classes that are still upcoming, with the schedule so you can see which courses relate to which certificates in general, some more detail on each certificate as Susanna kind of walked through them for you, and also a copy of this deck. So you'll have kind of all the tools you need. But at some stage, you want to talk to somebody, right? You want to say, like, what do I do? How do I make this happen? So what should be the next steps for those folks? How should they move forward?
The best thing to do is to go on our website and fill out a request for information.
Okay.
That will cue them to the appropriate individual to give them a call. We want to make sure you're talking to the right person. So based on what you're interested in, what you're looking to do, what kind of company you work for, where your company is located, we will definitely, someone will give you a call. You'll get some beautiful emails that will give you lots of information. But ultimately, we know you want somebody to talk to because it's a big decision. It's a big investment, and that's important to us as well.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Susan, for walking us through this. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully, if you didn't get your question answered here, you have contact information the same way you registered to follow back up with folks who are more than happy to give you those details. And hopefully we'll see you in an upcoming class, whether it's mergers, acquisitions, design learning, anything else that's coming up. So enjoy the rest of your day and have a great week.